Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. My name is Amy Self, and I'll be serving as your worship leader this morning. One thing I love about this congregation is our shared values. Ed and I were at a dinner last night with some friends, and they said, so what's the Unitarian Church like? How is it different? We were talking about all of our histories with Catholicism and growing up in different religions. And Ed said, well, we're not a creedal religion. You don't have to come here and state what you believe. And we have shared values. So, and then I told them about our principles, the interconnectedness, the web of life, spiritual searching, social justice, democratic processes, and they were like, wow. And, people from a Buddhist background can come here, people who are secular humanists, people who are from Christian, Jewish, so it's really our shared values, and that is one thing that I love about this church. So I'm kind of secretly hoping that our friends come and check it out. So if you're joining us online, fill out a visitor form in the link in the description. We'd love to connect with you. Some of us are bringing our best selves to this space, and some of us are bringing our struggling selves. All of us are welcome here, and all of us are loved. Some of us already have open hearts, and some of us aren't quite there yet, because our hearts have gotten a little beat up this week and might have forgotten how to trust and open. Your heart is welcome here, no matter how bruised. We welcome you among us. All of us are imperfect, but we're here to drop our defenses and trust that what happens in worship is powerful and life-giving. Together we affirm that this day and our being together can make each of us braver, more compassionate, and wiser than when we woke up this morning. We welcome you here. Oh, worship leader. Okay. Page turn got me a little. We are not bound together by creed, just like what I said earlier. See? Ties it all together. A specific list of things we all believe in exactly the same way. We are united by shared values expressed by our 7 principles and by the commitments we make to each other about what creates this community. To name that commitment, will you join together in person and online and speak our covenant aloud as one? Please rise in body or spirit. We gather in fellowship to speak truth to each other, to reach out and touch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth divine. So be it. Now I said, right? Oh, wait, I don't say it. Tomorrow is Holocaust Memorial Day. I need my glasses for this. German anti-Nazi theologian and Lutheran pastor Martin Niemöller was a national conservative and initially a supporter of Adolf Hitler. But at a key point, he resisted the regime. He was imprisoned in a concentration camp from 1937 to 1945. He narrowly survived. After his imprisonment, he deeply regretted that he had not done more to oppose the Nazis. For the rest of his life, he served as a pacifist, anti-war, and nuclear disarmament activist. I've heard these words. I thought they were a poetic statement, looking back at history. These words are the very real narrative of his life and times. These words are a very real warning and guide to our life and times. First, they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. Our flaming chalice is a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. It suggests, perhaps, that within our separate selves burns a flame of unity and connection and compassion. Once felt, that fire cannot be extinguished. And so we gather together, weaving our lives together. We light this chalice in remembrance. We light this chalice to say never again. We light this chalice in resistance. We light this chalice in hope.
I'm always amazed that there are so many of you on snowy days like this. I know this is a thing that happens every winter. This is not a new thing that you have never experienced before. Even so, it's good to be together on a cold day. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus tells a story to explain how people will be judged good or bad. And some of you are probably feeling like, oh, good, finally, some gospel in this place. Some of you are probably thinking, oh my God, this is early in the service for Jesus to be making an appearance. But especially in a world where Christian nationalists tend to think that Jesus would be on their side, riding shotgun on immigration raids, it is worth returning to what the man actually said. So he gives this analogy to explain how do you sort good people from bad. He says the criteria goes like this. I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was sick and you took care of me. I was in prison and you visited me. And he continues unpacking his own story. He says, well, then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? When was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it we saw you sick in prison and visited you? And he answered, truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, which is to say all people, you did it to me. And that's it. There's the criteria for judgment. The question is, what is required of us to be good people? And what the teacher actually says, not whatever 2,000 years of weird theology gets piled on top. What he actually says is it's not about what you believe, it's about what you do. I was hungry and you gave me food. It's not about who did you hang out with, who did you surround yourself with, but what did you do? I was a stranger and you welcomed me. Not you barely tolerated me. You welcomed me. It's not about how much money you have in your pocket. It's not about your identity or immigration status or social status or Facebook status. It's not about what happened to you. What did you do on the worst day of your life? What was it like when you hit bottom? None of these are the criteria. What he says is, what acts of service, of love, of mercy did you do when the moment came? And he also doesn't say how much did you do. It's really easy to go there. Did I do enough? Jesus teaches in parables and not formulas. He's giving a guideline, not a checklist. He doesn't say if you gave 15 or more hungry people food amounting to 1,500 calories or more, if 25 times that you saw a stranger, you welcomed them, he doesn't say that. He doesn't say you have to do everything. He says the work is to feel empathy and act on it. The suggestion here is that when the opportunity comes to make a difference, the good-hearted person takes it. The suggestion is that we aren't called to be perfect. We're called to the possible. Because you've been hungry, you would not see someone starve. That's just empathy. That's respect for the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Each time we do those sort of things, each time we act for good, even in the smallest ways, we're planting a seed not knowing how it's going to grow. And we don't do it alone. Rise in body or in spirit. Let's sing together.
I know this hymn might not be very familiar to everyone, and it is a little bit old-fashioned. The lyrics actually come from the Civil War era in the United States and talk a lot about how do we come to terms when we are faced with the strife, as it says in the lyrics, the strife of truth with falsehood. How do we continue to choose good? How do we continue to live our values? Once to every soul and nation comes the moment to decide in the strife of truth with falsehood for the good or evil side. Then to stand with truth is noble when we share its wretched crust, ere that cause bring fame and profit, and 'tis prosperous to be just. Though the cause of evil prosper, yet 'tis truth alone is strong. Though its portion be the scaffold, and upon the throne be wrong, then it is the brave one chooses, while the coward stands aside, till the multitude make virtue of the faith they have denied.
Join me in a spirit of prayer and meditation. We're going to try a new practice I don't think we've done before, which is humming. It's a thing we can all do. And the way this works is 3 times you're going to take a breath, not just a little inhale, but a breath that fills your whole body so that your chest expands in every direction, back, forward, side, up, down. And then all together we're going to hum without choosing any pitch in advance. We're just going to fill the room with humming till we run out of breath and see what happens. All right? Here we go. and again. And one more time. Part of the strangeness of spiritual practice is the way, whether it's humming or sitting in silence together, that it's both an entirely individual thing and an entirely collective and communal thing that we're doing together. It's both just your individual work to do, whether that's the hum or the listening, whether that's prayer or stillness, whether that's being absorbed in awe or joy or beauty, whether that's remembering all the things that weigh you down and lift you up. It's each of our work to do individually, and doing that all together is different than when you hum alone. And that matters too. Our words for meditation are by the poet Rosemary Watola Tromer, who writes this called Towards Peace. Perhaps some part of me still believes peace is a destination, a place we arrive, ideally together. I notice how shiny it is, this belief, like a flower made of crystal. It's beautiful but lifeless. It's devoid of the dust and the scruff that come from living a real day. Meanwhile, there is this invitation to grow into peace the way real flowers grow, in the dirt, with blight and drought, beetles, hail. Meanwhile, this invitation to live in the tangle of fear and failure, to be humbled by my own inner wars, and wonder how to find a living peace right here. A peace that arrives when we take just one step through the mess toward compassion. And notice as our foot rises, our heart also rises, and in that lifted moment, still scraping along in the dirt, there is a peace so real we become light, become the momentum that is the change. Be together in silence for a few moments. Amen. The interplay between the personal and the collective, the way that practice is our individual work and something that changes when we do it as a community, that's what our stones ritual is too. Each week we make this time in the service for folks to come forward as you feel moved to take a stone in token and symbol of everything that's on your heart and mind, your hopes and fears, and place it into the earth. And in doing that, we make this visible landscape altogether, collectively, of our interior lives, knowing that we're not alone in whatever the feeling is this week. There's not a way that you're supposed to be feeling this week. of some friends who are overwhelmed and angry and exhausted by the news, and some who are disconnected from it because it's too much, and others still for whom the news is not the thing that looms large in their life. It's that their child keeps waking well before dawn every day. You're not supposed to feel one way or another. This is a long relay race of living. And this is a space we make to feel everything together. Henry and Ellen ask for a blessing and a hope and the love of this community for those who need mercy and respect and dignity as leadership changes challenge us. Barb Richards says Fred is 86 tomorrow. And his Wordle streak has reached 105. And it's Rob Durgan's birthday today. Less than 86, but still, it's a good thing. It matters to get to feel those joys, too, along with the sorrows and the anxieties and the fears. Joy is an act of resistance. For those of us here in person, as the music begins, I invite you to come forward, starting with the back of the room and the side, and then the front, and to take a stone and place it together with the whole. earlier this morning, looking in a Facebook group of other UU ministers, someone had posted the question, something to the effect of, how many of you are rewriting your sermons after tonight's news? And the first reply was, without being sarcastic at all, the reply was, you'll have to be more specific. My commitment to you is that not every sermon for the next 4 years is going to begin with, after reading the news this week. But I did this week read the fact sheet for the executive order ending diversity, equity, and inclusion of any kind in the federal government. And it begins, maddeningly, impossibly, by explaining that diversity, equity, and inclusion is discrimination. This executive order terminates diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, discrimination in the federal workforce and in federal contracting and spending. It directs all departments and agencies to take strong action to end private sector DEI discrimination, including civil compliance investigations. It goes on and on, but that's the center of it. Equity and inclusion is discrimination. The political theorist Hannah Arendt, born in Germany in 1906, who fled as an adult and spent the remainder of her life trying to make sense out of the senselessness of that time and what followed. She wrote of this. She wrote of what it was like watching this happen in the 20s and 30s. She said everything that happened, this tide of repression, of totalitarianism, of fascism, all of this took place in public. There was nothing secret or mysterious about it. And still, it was by no means visible, nor was it at all easy to perceive it, for until the very moment when catastrophe overtook everything and everybody, it was covered up, not by realities, but by the highly efficient talk and double talk of nearly all official representatives who, without interruption, and in many ingenious variations, explained away unpleasant facts and justified concerns. She says, when we think of dark times, she means those decades and maybe these now. When we think of dark times and of people living in, moving in them, we have to take this camouflage also into account. Darkness has come when this light is extinguished by credibility gaps, by speech that does not disclose but sweeps under the carpet. This darkness comes when exhortations, moral and otherwise, under the pretext of upholding the old, degrade all truth to meaningless triviality. Eight years ago, when we were all young, 8 years ago, I thought it was a sprint that we were at the beginning of. I thought that was a sprint. Children caged and separated from their families at the border, the bigotry which insisted that no, white people are the group most discriminated against, the open contempt for the clear scientific consensus on the existential threat of climate change. I thought then that the emergence of those voices on a national stage was a fluke. It was like a May snowstorm. Pull the shovels out, put some hard work in, this is going to pass. Oh, David of 8 years ago, you sweet summer child. Did you feel like that then? Not all the time, and some of you knew and saw and imagined much more clearly than that. But 8 years ago, on this Sunday after inauguration, the message I preached was, get active, get involved, pay attention. Don't look away, don't turn away, don't slow down, don't get overwhelmed. March, write, speak, act. And none of that is wrong or untrue. It's just that it sounds exhausting. It sounds like a setup because this is not a late May snowstorm. This is an early October snowstorm. And there's a long season ahead of us. This is not the time to throw your back out. The work will be longer and larger. Or maybe a different analogy. If you're starting an all-day hike, I just, after living here 3 years, last summer started hiking a little bit. Apparently it's a thing you do. If you're starting an all-day hike and you want to get up the mountain faster, you don't begin by sprinting the first few miles. Some of you probably do. There are ridiculous people in this city. I love you. I don't understand you. But I think for most of us, the way you do it is actually by going slower and paying a whole lot more attention to your body and what your body needs. The tightness in your ankle, does that loosen up after the first mile? You pay attention to your body. I don't feel desperately thirsty now. This is a good time to drink some water. I'm not ravenous. This is a good time to feed myself something. What does that look like for you in the years ahead? What will that need to be? To take care of yourself, not to get exhausted in a sprint that turns into a marathon that just turns into what the rest of our lives are going to look like. We know much better than we did 8 years ago the cost of constant action and the price of constant activity and anxiety relentlessly. The poet Bertolt Brecht, in the aftermath of World War I, writing also of the 20s and 30s and talking about himself and his allies in the fight against fascism, he says, "We knew only too well even the hatred of squalor makes the brow grow stern. Even anger against injustice makes the voice grow harsh. Alas," he says, "we who wished to lay the foundations of kindness could not ourselves be kind." Part of the strategy or the effect of totalitarianism, of fascism, of dividing us against them is to exhaust and overwhelm you, to wear you out, to wear you down, to get you to tune out, to get you numb. Joy and pleasure and celebration and delight are a necessary part of the antidote to that numbness. Falling in love with the world and its people, staying human in an inhumane world, this is necessary to survive, to do the work. There's a world that we're dreaming of, a just, a fair world, a world of compassion and mercy and empathy where everyone counts and everyone matters. And our work is not to lose that in the blizzard of the world. The Quaker author Parker Palmer talks about how in the Midwest on the Great Plains, a century and a half ago on the farms out there, at the first sign of storm clouds, the first thing you would do will be to run a rope from the back door of your house out to the barn. Because there were people who left in the midst of storms and died in a whiteout in their own backyards because they couldn't see the way clear across. Our work is not to get lost in that whiteout of the world, but to stay connected. One of my favorite old Unitarians from a century ago with the wonderful name von Ogden Vogt said, "Church is not worth doing just out of force of habit or custom or because you're supposed to." There's no theology of damnation to scare you into attendance. None of you are going to hell. I feel like I should say, sorry, that's not right. There's no theology of damnation. That is not a thing. And there's not much social pressure like shaming you into showing up. We embrace science they already had a century ago. We don't need God to fill in the gaps of things we don't know. So why church? This is my job. I have to be here. Why are you people here? That feels more aggressive than I wanted. You people. Why this shared practice, really, is what I mean. Why is this the work for dark times? Why does this meet a moment? Vogt says that this practice that we're doing right now, this is one pathway to what he calls the abundant life. And we might today say the whole life, a life that puts together head and heart and hands, the things you think about and care about and set to work making real in the world. His book opens with this inscription in wonderfully old-fashioned language that to become a person among persons is the sum of the abiding satisfactions of life. For us, this work, this religion, this faith, whatever language you want to use to call it, it's not a matter of thinking or believing a particular thing or acting in one right way or looking just right. This task that we're at is about staying human in an inhumane world. It's about living a three-dimensional life oriented to self and to others and to a transcendent dimension bigger than any and all of us, whatever name you call that thing. It's about living as a whole person, having a space where we can acknowledge our own shortcomings and failures as a reality that doesn't have to destroy us with shame or guilt. It's a space to acknowledge our deepest joys and happiness are just as true as the difficult things. It's a place to acknowledge and embrace and live into those commitments that lay hold of us. A way to walk through the world without cynicism or naivete. It's a choice about what future you want to belong to, about what person you want to be in that future, and how to do it. And when we're fighting to make the world a better place, celebration reminds us what it is we're fighting for. We're working that celebration abounds, that abundant community is a way of life for all people. And our joy, because part of what is coming in these next 4 years, part of what you're going to hear and see and sing over and over again is joy, just pure, honest joy, hand in hand with difficulty. That joy is not a denial of difficult things. It is an affirmation that something beautiful is possible right at the same time. Vogt's word was courage. He said, we gather for a renewal of courage for the duties of life. And I'm not going to tell you that everything will be okay, and I don't know what the future will bring, good, bad, both. But I can invite you to make your way through the storm of the world, the blizzard of politics, the degradation of truth. I can invite you to tie a rope from the present moment back to your soul and forward to the future that you dream of. Courage, my friends. Courage.
Will you rise in body or in spirit? Courage, my friend. Together you do not walk alone. We will walk with you, and guide your spirit home. Courage, my friend. You do not walk alone. We will walk with you, and guide your spirit more time. Courage, my friend. You do not walk alone. We will walk with you. And guide your spirit home.
It feels like those words are a cornerstone of the story, true story that I'm about to tell you. This month, our offering goes to SPAN, Safe House Progressive Alliance for Nonviolence. When Maria arrived at the doors of the Safe House Progressive Alliance for Nonviolence, or SPAN, she carried more than just a suitcase in her hands. She carried the weight of fear, uncertainty, and the lives of her 7 children. Escaping an abusive home, Maria had made the courageous choice to seek safety, knowing it was the first step toward rebuilding a life of dignity and hope. SPAN's mission is rooted in compassion and empowerment. Through services like emergency shelter, advocacy, and housing programs, SPAN ensures that survivors of domestic violence have a safe space to heal and find stability. For Maria and her children, the shelter became more than a roof over their heads. It became a lifeline. The staff welcomed them with warmth and understanding, providing the immediate safety they needed. As Maria settled into the shelter, she began working with SPAN's advocates to address the trauma she had endured and to create a plan for her family's future. Recognizing the challenges of providing for 7 children, SPAN's team connected her to vital resources. Through the McKinney-Vento program, which helps children experiencing homelessness to access education, Maria's children were enrolled in school. Meanwhile, the Child and Youth Advocate provided emotional support to ensure the kids felt safe and cared for during this transition. Maria's determination to create a better life for her family was met with SPAN's unwavering support. She successfully entered one of SPAN's housing programs, which offered her the stability she needed to find employment. With her children thriving in school and Maria regaining her independence, their lives began to transform. The shelter had not only provided them with safety, but had set them on a path toward a future filled with possibilities. Today, Maria is a testament to the resilience of survivors and the power of community support. She has a steady job, her children are flourishing in their education, and together they are building a life free from violence. Her story is one of hope and renewal, a reminder that no one has to face hardship alone. At SPAN, every story like Maria's reaffirms our commitment to providing a haven for those in need. It is through the collective efforts of our advocates, volunteers, and community partners that we can continue to empower individuals to break the cycle of violence and reclaim their lives. I invite you to give as generously as you are able. For those online, you can use the QR code or find a link in the video description. For those gathered in person, us, you can scan the QR code, which is on the screen, or make a donation as the ushers now pass the baskets. May our gifts be used to enact justice, bringing peace and love to the Boulder community.
As we close, I have 3 invitations for you in reverse chronological order. Saturday, February 8th, from 9 to 1, right here at UUCB, we're going to spend the morning working with our architects, envisioning the future of this building. It's the first session of 2. The second one will be on March 8th, Saturday, March 8th, also right here from 9 to 1. And if you only go to one thing here, not on a Sunday, let it be that. All of your input matters in what you want and imagine in the expansion of this building to serve us, to open our doors broader in the future. But if you go to 2 things not on a Sunday this year, then the other one is coming up this Saturday, and it is going to be so amazing.
Okay, I wasn't sure if those eyes were like...
No, I'm just like hyping you up here.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, put it together.
You made it weird. Next weekend, my beautiful, luminous friend Francisco Ruiz is going to be here from the LA area. I met Francisco at the UU Musicians Conference several years ago, and he's got a gorgeous voice and a beautiful smile and just a huge, enormous heart, and specialized training in a group improv technique called circle songs, which was developed by Bobby McFerrin, if you've ever seen any of those viral videos. So you don't have to know anything or be good at singing. Any age, any skill level, we just create something magical together in the room. Like you'll sing a little bit of something, and then you'll add a little something on top of it, and it'll just be completely new. It will have never existed before. It's just super fun. Really a great way to make intricate and complicated music in a very easy way. Somehow it's remarkably spiritual and like soul affirming at the same time. So I really, really hope that you will join us. I have a lot of administrative problems, so the QR code that is on the flyer is wrong. Don't use it. You need to use the link in the corrected email that Sam sent out from the office last week. Not like the original announcement, but the second one that came after that with the correct link. I'm learning. Saturday at 10 o'clock in the Sky Room. Thank you.
And Emily would say, you should also just show up even if you don't figure out the link whatsoever at all. Finally, immediately after the service in the Sky Room, grab some coffee, grab a bite to eat, and check out, it's our Connections Fair. There are something like 15 or more different groups that you can get involved with and find out more about. Often we talk about there's a work of finding your small community here within the large community, and this is a great way to see what the landscape looks like. Okay, enough business. Where do we begin? Where do we begin? Arthur Ashe, the great tennis player and activist, the first black man to win Wimbledon, he had a simple response to that question. He says, start where you are. Use what you have and do what you can. We rise in body or in spirit. We'll close in song.
If you'd rather not make contact with your neighbors, feel free to put a hand on your heart while we sing. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones.